A reader asks, what kind of insights would you get from story-based interviewing that you wouldn't get from quantitative data? Okay, this is a good question because I think this is often misunderstood. So a lot of teams rely on quantitative data. This can include things like behavioral analytics, right? The data we collect as people use our product. What are they doing? How often? Click-through rate, conversion rates, things like that. It also can include, like, one of the things that we think about with quantitative data is like large-scale surveys. If we just ask people to tell us what they think, why don't we do it in a large-scale quantitative manner? Quantitative data is really great for understanding behavior in aggregate, right? So when people come to our homepage, how many of them go to the different places they can go to from there? Or when they're going through our onboarding process, how many drop off at each step, right? So we do want to look at quantitative data. What quantitative data doesn't tell us is why, right? So if someone makes it through step 1 of our onboarding process, but they don't make it through step 2, we know there's a problem on step 2, but we don't know what it is. We don't know why they couldn't complete it. And yes, there are some things we can put in place to collect quantitative data around it, but really what we're going to get from conducting story-based interviews is context, right? When we interview someone and we ask them to tell us about their experience or to tell us about a specific instance when something happened, we learn about what their goals were, what their motivations were, the context they were in when they were trying to do those things. We learn about a wide variety of opportunities. Maybe they didn't know how to answer a question. Maybe they knew how to answer a question, but they didn't have the requisite data on hand. Maybe they got interrupted and they meant to come back and they forgot. All of these different reasons for why someone might drop off at step 2 aren't going to show up in your quantitative data. And especially even like you might say, well, why don't we just survey them and ask them? Well, if we send someone a survey and we say, hey, it looks like you did step 1, but not step 2, most people aren't going to remember the appropriate level of detail, right? They might remember a little bit, but in an interview, our job is to help situate the participant in that moment and help them retell their story. And by doing that, we're helping them tap into their memory. We're helping to collect a reliable story. It's really hard to do that through a survey because we're not there with them. We're not able to situate them back in that moment. So what we get from qualitative interviews is context, depth, who they were with, where they were at, what they were trying to do. And it's very difficult to get that through quantitative data. So it's not a question of one or the other. Good teams are going to rely on both, but we don't want to just rely on quantitative data, just like we don't want to just rely on qualitative data. I hope that helps. If you're using both quantitative and qualitative data, I would love to hear your response to this question. What do you get from your interviews that you're not getting from your quantitative data? Share in the comments below. And if you're new to qualitative research, if you've never conducted a customer interview, I'll be sure to add a link to our customer interview guide as well to help you get started.